check, good. So I'm Max Ceron, Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and we're here for another day with another guest, another Canadian thing, on the show, which is good to have. We have been having a lot of American guests lately and people from around the world, so it's always good to get back into a Canadian story and also back out west, where I live in Saskatchewan, and now we have someone from BC here. So, beautiful British Columbia, we have Kevin Stone. How you doing, Kevin?
Good. How are you doing, Max? Great to be here.
I'm doing great. I got beautiful weather here. Looks like you got a little bit of rain.
Today we do, but it's supposed to clear up tonight and back to warm weather, so that's good.
That's nice. Yeah, here in Saskatchewan, we're supposed to get up to 34 degrees today, so it'll be nice and warm.
Yeah.
And where are you exactly in BC?
I'm just outside of Abbotsford, between Abbotsford and Chilliwack in the Fraser Valley here.
Oh, beautiful area. Have you been out there a long time?
Yeah, I've been here about 15 years now, I guess, maybe a little longer than 15 years. And I've been in the Lower Mainland since my mid-20s. I guess I came over for work when I was about 25 and been here ever since. So I'm originally from Vancouver Island.
Oh, okay, you're off from. I was going to ask next where you were born and where your roots are from.
Yeah, so I was born in Victoria and grew up in Vancouver Island. Ladysmith, BC is my hometown. And then moved around a lot for work, obviously, in the welding industry. I followed the work basically for my younger years. And then as things started to settle down, I got older and had kids. I settled into the Lower Mainland here, where there was always, steady work and not a bad place to raise your kids.
So is that the home of the Ladysmith apple?
No, I don't think so. No.
Because it's like, geez, I've heard of the apple. I wonder if that's where it comes from.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know.
So, out on the island, I have been on the island many times. I have many friends that are out there. My family lived in Vancouver for many years. Is there a welding program on the island itself? I'm just kind of wondering, how did young Kevin get into welding in the first place?
Camosun College is a technical institute in Victoria, and they had all the welding fabrication programs, auto body programs, all the trades type thing, even cooking and all the rest of it there. So it was a really good program. They had really good teachers at the time. I did my C, my B, and my A level through Camosun College in Victoria, and started my work in the. Well, I started connecting steel, so I was doing ironwork and commercial steel welding, commercial buildings and bridges and stuff like that when I started, and then I got into the ferries, and I was involved in the aluminum fast ferries here that were developed in the late '90s in BC here, and then from there I moved over to the mainland during that project, with the project. And then when I left that project, I started working in local shops doing a lot of brewery equipment and stainless steel and finishing work and stuff, which really helped polish the work that I do now, transferring that metal knowledge into my artwork. So I do a lot of work with stainless steel, as you might know, and that was really beneficial in learning that part of the trade that allowed me to work with stainless. So
in the beginning, when you were on the island, I guess what was the deciding factor to get into welding at all? Did you have it in your family? Did you know about it? How did that seed get planted?
Best friend. So my best friend, his roommate talked him into doing the welding course and coming to work with him at the shipyard. So he did his apprenticeship through the Victoria shipyard. And then of course, then he was making the fat checks when we were all broke. I thought, that's a great thing to do. I like building stuff. I'm a car builder as well. I've lived, eat, and breathed cars since I was little. So learning that part of the trade, even in my personal car building experience, was really beneficial for me when I was younger. I really took to metalwork. I really liked it. I liked the welding aspect of it, but as I grew in my career, I grandfathered the trade of metal shaping, and then it kind of also became an obsession. So I wanted to learn everything that you could. How can you shape metal, and all the old techniques and new techniques, and just everything I could learn about it. Coach building, that type of stuff too. So I was really interested in the automotive part of it, which is what accelerated me into the welding career, I believe. And the art didn't come till much later.
It's interesting because over the years and all the guests we've had, the welding and, automotive building, car building, very, very common themes. Myself as well. I've loved building cars. I had a shop where we would build cars for years. And
right.
That is very much automotive, kind of blends both the industrial portion of welding, which is frames and suspensions, and then the creative side, which is like, if you're doing modifications, how you're going to do it, but then also kind of brings in the artistic side because cars are visually appealing, and you can't have rough edges, you can't have dents and dings, you can't have showing welds. It's got to be seamless. And I mean, that is actually where I struggled. I loved the building side. I loved the creative side of it, but I struggled with the patience of the finishing, because man, that is a whole nother level of, like, auto guys that are people that are amazing at the auto body side, like that getting that perfect finish to it with the color and the gloss. That takes a whole nother level of finishing that, still to this day, I find myself struggling with that patience.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know, but Michelle and I just sold our hot rod shop last year. So we had a hot rod shop for 9 years, and I was pretty proud of the crew that I had put together. We did some pretty high level show cars, and patience, I think, both in the trade that I do both ways. I mean, my sculptures generally are taking a year to 2 years to build. I haven't exceeded 2 years yet, but we're getting close. And 2 years is a long time to work on one project. And I've done cars that were 2-year projects that had, like, starting to push 3,000 or 4,000 hours into a vehicle build. It gets pretty tedious, and it gets pretty time consuming and costly, So, patience is something that you just have to, there's no getting around it, when you're metal and stuff, you just got to be patient and just get through it. I just tackle each day, and each problem that each day brings, and just focus on the problem at hand, and worry about the problems tomorrow.
All right, so let's go back, because I was interested in what you said about, starting out as a, in the ironworking field, which is a great starting point for many welders, and especially when, young people are looking to get into a trade that offers training and benefits and, opportunity to travel and opportunities to learn. I also did work with the iron workers, and even up until my older years, if I needed to make some money, I'd pick up some shutdowns, go work a couple shutdowns in the summer, which in the West is a big deal. It's kind of a lot of the work comes out in May, June, and you can pick up some shutdowns and make some really good coin for a young person. How did you get into the ironworking side of it, and kind of how long did that career last for you?
Well, lack of job opportunity is really where it was at back in the day. There was only so many jobs, and you took the good with, I guess you could say, and there was a lot of crappy jobs too, and then they weed out a lot of people. You got to be a pretty hard worker being an iron worker.
You do. Yeah.
You got to work hard. You got to be fearless. You got to be able to climb and do things and not be being, I call it babysitting somebody because they're afraid of heights or something, and that's dangerous on the job, right? And you see it a lot.
And you got to be fit.
And you got to be extremely fit, and honestly, to be honest, I started so early that we didn't really have a lot of safety precautions. They advised you to wear a harness, but it wasn't mandatory when I So, it did come out during the end of my ironworking career where it was mandatory, and probably in the last year or two of me doing ironwork. And after all the years of doing ironworking and climbing steel and getting your balance and just knowing where you are on the steel and being a safe worker, I felt it as a real hindrance. I felt off balance, and I actually felt less safe on the steel having that thing hanging off me, even though I knew it was necessary to, because it happens and slips happen. I've seen it, but yeah, it just changed my feel on the iron. I didn't feel as comfortable as I used to. And then that fear, I had a couple of hang-ups a couple times where something tugged you the wrong way, and it was because you grabbed something, and then I just didn't feel comfortable, and I literally wanted to start doing something else after that. Obviously, if you grew up your whole life with one on, you get used to it, and for me, I didn't feel as comfortable. I was doing some pretty tall buildings at the time, and so I just chose to do some safer work. My first child was born, and my girlfriend at the time was pretty happy that I wasn't going to be climbing steel anymore. So
yeah, and gone for weeks at end, and I don't,
exactly,
because you're ironworking, you're always on site gone, right?
Yeah, that was a huge factor too.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my last job was Whistler. I was doing the chateau at Whistler, and we were doing like 12 stories of steel up at the chateau, and winter was starting to onset, and we were starting to, melt beams from the snow, and then I was like, you know what, I think I'm done with ironworking, and that was where it ended for me. So
I'm a big baby with the cold. I got a couple calls to go do some permit hot work because I'm a stainless guy too, so I always had my stainless tickets. And in the ironworking world, stainless is money because not everyone has stainless, and they're hard to get. Like most people fail their stainless tickets, and so I kept mine actually just until this year. They expired, so 27 years I kept them intact. And so I'd get the calls being like, hey, we have some chute work or we have some conveyor work, at the mines, because I'm in Saskatchewan, so it's all mines. And if it was winter, I'd be like, I'm busy. Like, I mean, I have no desire to go lie in my back in 3 feet of snow and be heating rods with an acetylene torch. And
there's, for young people, I'm going to say for young people, try to avoid situations where you're laying in the snow or laying, like for me, the worst one I had, I was laying under this bridge up in the mountains of Pitt Lake with a creek running down the back of my rain gear, upside down, trying to do stick welding overhead under this bridge, literally with a creek going down my rain gear down the back of my neck. And there's some predicaments out there for sure.
Yeah, and then you come back home and all your friends are like, wow, you made whatever, 15 grand in 2 weeks. Wow, amazing. And they have no idea the amount of swearing and anger and frustration. But
wonders why I have a foul mouth. I said,
but also, what? To give the credit to the ironworkers, because I respect that trade, immensely, because 100%. Even through all the hardships and how difficult those jobs can be, because ironworkers sometimes are the first on, right? They're kind of the first in, first on, absolutely. And so they get some of the roughest work.
Yeah,
and they do great work, they do great work. After ironworking, what was the next step?
Shop work. So I worked for a couple mining companies, still doing, heavy welding, heavy hot welding. I worked in a few shops where we were just producing the steel to send out to put together, making beams and all that kind of stuff. And not for me, it just kind of monotonous work when you're in a shop doing that all day, every day. I'm very artistic and creative, and those type of jobs really made me feel like I was being held down, and I would always find myself moving on to find something else to do, and they were almost, I called them filler jobs. They were like, go burn wire and make some money, but it's and then really the industry took a beating for a while. I mean, wages were brutal for a while. It was hard to get a decent wage out of shop work mostly. Field work, you could still get pretty good money, but shop work really took a dive there for a while in the 90s especially. And then Yeah, and then I got into more creative stuff. Like I really enjoyed when I got in with the breweries. I really enjoyed making the fanciness of the breweries, seeing them
Tanks
all,
and the bronze and the brass and the stainless. Yeah.
copper and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
polished finishes, and fancy welding, and and I really liked all that kind of stuff. And I stuck with it for quite a while. I probably did that for at least 10 years, and then that kind of is where I was at when my art started. Um, I'd played with having my own business. I'd left welding for a while, and I tried to do a fabrication, like kind of an off-road
Hmm.
fabrication shop, and it didn't go well. So then it was back to welding. And then I got an opportunity to do a piece of artwork. And that artwork basically started my whole career. It gave me the momentum and the publicity to start doing more pieces. And I started with a big, big eagle. I did a 30-foot eagle called Power and Authority, and that basically that started all my large pieces in the public's eye, I guess you could say. So
So you're picking up these skills, in the brewery, and that's very fine work. It's TIG, it's clean, it's all food and has to be, and it's all pressurized too. So like not only pretty, but has to be strong and tested welds. Um, but the art side and this is a very common theme for all the guests that I've had, is that I seem to lack that. I'm working on it. Like I'm trying to get better at it. But I find that most of my guests that are now artists or professionally doing artwork have had that art seed since they were born. So, in your life, were you always drawing and doodling? Did you try other mediums as you were growing up? Like, how did your art kind of grow with you? Even when you were kind of I'm sure you left it aside for a while when you were just welding, just trying to make a buck like everybody else. Was that art always there?
It's exactly my life. I was an artist as a kid, pretty serious artist actually. In my 10 to 12 or 13, like that, I really drew a lot and really detailed drawings. I used to do a lot of black ink and Conan type artwork even when I was young, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say I got pretty good at various types of arts. I've always been a cartoonist, and I can just sketch a million faces all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And always was really good at drawing monsters when I was a kid. And monsters were probably my thing. I could just draw a million different types of faces and monsters and stuff. So I really draw a lot. And then really, you said it, when the kids happened and life got in the way and you got to pay bills and work, and I just didn't even think about art. I might doodle once in a while if I was bored, sitting there on my phone or whatever. But I really never really took art seriously until I got the opportunity to start doing the metal art. And then after a couple of my big pieces, like I just jumped right off the diving board, and my first one, how it started really was I did a gargoyle for the stainless steel company I was working for, and it turned out really good. And so for what I made it out of, I just made it out of a scrap out of the bin and worked with pieces leftovers, and I made this batwing gargoyle. And I was kind of pressured, get it done fast and stuff. You're on the clock, right? So I put it together pretty quick. But then that led into the interest of a financial backer interested in my skill and asking if I could, build, what else could I build? And then kind of together we came up with this idea of doing a big eagle that would, maybe it would sell to the States or something like that, right? Do it in stainless steel so it looks like a big chrome eagle, and it'd look good in a fountain. And that was kind of our business plan right there. Well, little did I know, his business plan was wait till I finish it and try to steal it. So
which is often how business goes, because I had a business partner once too, and that's exactly how that went.
And literally it turned into a court battle, but I eventually won and seized the bird and got it back. And eventually I had to do a bunch of repairs. It's a long story, but he literally had an out-of-town welding crew come in and start cutting it apart, trying to relocate it without anybody knowing. And this is when we'd already filed court papers against him and stuff. He waited a year thinking nobody was watching him. And I had people and friends, and I even regularly checked up on the building where I was locked out of, just to see if the stuff was still in there. And Sure enough, he tried to really locate it and, wash his hands of it. Once it's out of sight, then he denies knowing anything about it, and that was his attempt to get out. So once he tried that and we caught him, I basically got authority to seize everything, and that was that. That was the end of that partnership. So
Well, that's a rough start to the gig.
it was a bad taste in my mouth, and then I had it again. So my second partner, so I actually came across this venture capitalist in Vancouver who said, "Hey, we're kind of interested. I've got a businessman that's interested in your bird." And I said, "Well, that bird's, it's in court, it's locked up. I'm not going to see it for a couple of years." So while this was going on, this farmer from Saskatchewan decided to invest in me to do another bird. And they just saw the potential that it could, potentially sell for a good money on the investment, and partnered up with me to do another bird. So I did another bird. And then after the bird, we were kind of in the point of marketing it and stuff like that. And I came up with the idea of doing a Chinese dragon, a big Chinese dragon for a casino or a outdoor display of some sort, in water, preferably. That's why I did it all in polished stainless. And he was a pretty deep-pocketed investor, so he was interested in the project. But at the time, I was bidding on a job here locally for the new bridge that was going from Langley to Maple Ridge across the Fraser there. And so this new bridge that was being built, they were looking for artists to do eagles mounted on the bridge up above it, and probably
cool.
half a dozen eagles, big steel eagles to be mounted. So I bid on that and had submitted all these drawings and everything, but I didn't get the bid. So this lady from the States actually won the bid and did the eagles for the bridge. And at that time, that's when I told the investor that I didn't get that bid, because we were hoping it was a pretty good bid. It was a pretty good job, and it didn't happen. So he pulled the trigger to do the dragon and financed the dragon to get built. And that took me 2 years to build. So that was a big project. It was about $500,000 to create that dragon. And then I got hit with the bad partner blues again. So he and his associate got like ridiculously greedy and wanted ridiculous money for my artwork. Like they wanted $3 million for my bird. They wanted $10 million for my dragon. And I had I had a written offer for my bird at $1.5 million, which was phenomenal. It was like unbelievable. And it came as a certified mail and all authorized as a
Ready to go.
real,
Yeah.
ready to go offer. And they turned it down and wanted like $3 million. And I'm like, anyway, so that deal went south. They blew it. And that started a negative feed in our relationship, as this partnership obviously was collapsing rapidly. If they're not going to have common sense on what these things should be selling for, and sell it, move on, and make more if there's a market there, not just try to get rich off of one piece, right? So anyway, my dragon had been taken to the P&E on display in 2011, and so it was at the Vancouver Pacific National Exhibition in Vancouver, and it was on display there for the first couple of months. And then the River Rock Casino out in Richmond had seen the dragon on display, and the Chinese New Year was coming up. 2012 was coming up, and they wanted to have the dragon and pay for it and lease it and have it at the casino on display for the Chinese New Year. It was also the year of the dragon, 2012, so it was perfect for them. Yeah. So anyway, we made arrangements with them, and we took the dragon from, we'd already transported it from Chilliwack to Vancouver and then back. Now it was being transported from Chilliwack to Richmond to be on display at the casino. So it went there, and I know some negotiations took place, but they were way off on what it would take to purchase the dragon. I think their offer was $800,000, and it was like $5 million to build it. So I think if they had a serious offer around over $1 million, it was sold. But anyway, so then it stayed there on lease for about 6 months, and then we made arrangements to bring it home. And then that's when tragedy struck, and the company I hired neglected to do the move properly. So the first company I hired that did all the moving for me, they decided to try to play a fast one and double their bill for bringing it home. So they had charged me $9,000 each way to move it to the P&E and back. That was with the crane and the truck and everything. It was $9,000. So $18,000 return trip from Chilliwack to Vancouver. Then they charged me that to, another $9 to take it to Richmond and have it at the River Rock Casino. They wanted to charge over $18 to bring it home. And the casino said to phone me and basically said, what the hell's up with this? Like, we're paying to go back, but why is the price doubled? Anyway, I called them and they just were like, oh, well, that's what they wanted. So I said, well, you guys just lost your business. You can't just double the price after 3 trips, right? So I went with another company. So another company gave me the move at the original price that I was paying, which the casino was happy with. But then they went and did the move illegally. So they didn't go to get a permit, and the permit didn't give them a route. And so on their way home, they hit an overpass with the Dragon.
Oh my gosh.
And smashed the front of the Dragon and pushed the neck backwards and bent the neck. And anyway, long story short, I assessed the damage, and the insurance company was really good with me. They said, the guy I was dealing with, he said, if you assess the damage and then double it, that's going to really give you a ballpark of what you find when it's done, and you don't have to. And then you're not worried about not having enough money and coming back to make sure it's fixed properly and stuff, right? So they settled with me and gave me the funds to repair it. So before that happened, my partner
in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, my partner, I phoned him and said, here's what happened. They've damaged the Dragon. It's just showed up basically smashed. And he was like, well, I'm going to sue the insurance company. And I'm like, I said, yeah, but the thing's repairable. The neck is bent and the horn is bent and the ball needs repainting. And, there was a few other things, right? The neck was a big one because that took some major surgery to straighten the neck out. But again, it's just metal and you can
always rework it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't destroyed completely. It wasn't a write-off, but that was his way of making $1 million because they were insured for $1 million. So he basically told me to go f myself and he was going to sue them for $1 million. So I was already dealing with the insurance company, and the insurance company phoned me up one day and said, who the hell is this guy from Saskatchewan? We just heard from his lawyers and he's suing us for $1 million. And I said, yeah, well, he's my partner and he figures that he can get it written off. And I've already submitted a film documenting the damage to the insurance company. I've already set estimates in of what it would take to repair. I built that thing for 2 years and I certainly wasn't about to just call it a pile of scrap for a payday. I wanted it to go out to the public and represent my work and be around for generations because it's an amazing sculpture, right? So I agreed to repair it and settle with the insurance company, and they paid me to repair the Dragon. And as soon as they heard from his lawyers, they settled with me that night. They basically said, well, come down this afternoon and we'll have a check for you. And once you sign the papers, they're lost.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
So anyway, rather than talking to me about repairing it, selling it and using the money to repair it and whatever else, and there was probably going to be some leftover money for him after the repairs, he turns around and sues me. So I went and talked to a lawyer in Vancouver and I said, look, really, this is all ridiculous. He's a greedy SOB that wants stupid money for this thing. Now it's been damaged. I'm the artist. I've agreed to fix it. I've been paid to fix it. I'm willing to fix it. But now at this point, I said, I want some kind of plan or document, piece of paper moving forward that's simple. Like I'm now obliged to fix this. We fix it. We have a reasonable price to sell it that you get your money back and you make a little bit, and it's a reasonable price. And we both sell it.
And we walk away. Yeah.
It's a divorce sale, right?
Yeah,
Let's just get this sold and we'll call it a divorce sale. So So I had two pieces with him. I had a big eagle and this dragon sitting there ready to sell, which he was gonna. His total investment was just over $500,000. He tried to sue me for over $1.5 million. And basically trying to make it look like, well, you just cost me $1 million because I didn't get to sue the insurance company, so I'm going to go after you for the $1 million, which was totally fraudulent. Like, it was just a fraud claim against me, right? So then I talked to a really good lawyer in Vancouver, a really high-priced lawyer, and he's like, look, the simple thing is you're going to pay me and to fight this, all this money. You're going to get in front of a judge. A judge is going to tell the both of you what was your original agreement, which was a very straightforward agreement. He invests, we sell, he gets his money back, we split the profit. That was literally, it was a win-win for him, right? Mm-hmm. And I just create the thing and get my name out there. So, and I stood the potential to make some money off of it, but I mean, after his investment back and you pay the taxes, there was, little of it in there, but still potential to make a decent payday. And so anyway, long story short, I just agreed to walk away. So I decided to repair the dragon because my name was on it. I wanted the dragon fixed and repaired. And, they paid me to repair it, so I was obliged to repair it. So then when I did repair it, and I did a really good job repairing it, I documented it, I photographed all the steps that I did to repair it and all the pieces, the bad pieces and the good pieces that I replaced. I documented it all for the lawyers to have, so they'd seen that I did every step that was required to repair it. Then, after it was settled, and I basically signed the papers and was done with it, he then accused me of not repairing it well enough and had some other company come. Now it's in his possession, so it was out of my hands anyway, and cut it apart again to make sure that I didn't fudge the repairs. And I'm like, you stupid son of a... So anyway, then he did a midnight move thinking I was going to seize the pieces or something. So he had trucks and cranes do a midnight move and move the pieces from the farm that I had them at. I had moved out of the farm and left the pieces for him to pay for the storage there until, he figured out what he was doing with them. And then he did a midnight move thinking, I don't know, like he did it. You're
going to throw it in. You're going to throw it in your backpack and take it home.
And so anyway, so the funny thing is the company, the trucking company that was moving them, doing this midnight move for him, thought it was so cool that they posted all the pictures all over social media. And that's how I found out he did a midnight move, was because he had the tow company had posted it all over the place. So I just thought it was funny. So long story short, those pieces still sit at the yard. So the company he hired to come and cut it apart to check if I had fixed it properly, he had moved it to their property, their yard out in Abbotsford, and they still sit there now for 10 years. They've been sitting there unsold, just sitting in limbo. I have no idea what they're doing with them. So I haven't seen them ever marketed or for sale on any type of media or platform. And they still sit there. I know people that have seen them, and the two pieces are still sitting out in his yard. And the guy in Saskatchewan still owns them, but that's all I know. So,
that's rough. And for all the young artists that are listening to this, heed the warnings of Kevin.
Absolutely.
But this brings me back to the very start of this story, which is something I've actually always wondered, because as a business owner myself, and I've had a couple failed business, as you're young, you try to start a business because you think you figured it out, and you don't know, you screw it right up. But there's always that beginning investment. Like, you got to buy tools, you got to buy machines, you got to have space. This is tough. And I watch on Instagram, and I follow many artists and many successful, career welders. And I look at their shops, and I'm wondering, there's this 27-year-old artist in, wherever in Arizona, and I look at their Instagram videos, and they have, probably $1 million worth of equipment, and how does it get from there to there? Because I've never had $1 million of equipment, so the financial backing is a piece that I've never had. I've never had someone come in and say, "Hey, I'm gonna give you some cash to get started." It's always been like, "Hey, I got $400. I can buy a $300 Canadian Tire welding machine and let's get going." So
Right. Yeah.
so how did that even happen? How in your world, because the art you do is amazing, and that's not just a plasma torch and a TIG machine. There's other pieces of equipment involved there, right?
Sure.
How does that start? How do you start building that up?
Well, you start with a grinder. That's the number one tool. You can cut and grind. If you can cut and grind in a hammer, it honestly, it's how I've learned to do it over the years now is I've gotten only for me, I mean, really, you got to start with the basics, right? So if you can afford a cheap used welder, if you're just starting out, if you're looking to just start out in your garage, which is the best place to start out in, is start in your garage, and you get a grinder, you get a table to be able to work on, even if it's just a wood 2x4 table, whatever you need to start your work on, and a cheap welder. And then once you get good with a grinder, you can use zip disc to cut almost anything. You can cut any kind of material with a zip disc. I use it, all day, every day, basically. And then slowly keep investing in yourself. If you make something for somebody or do a repair for somebody, instead of putting that money into a case of beer and party or whatever it might be, go buy a new tool, and invest in that tool. And and if you've got a job where you're making decent money and you can afford a payment every month, buy a small amount of tools off of a tool truck and make a payment and get those tools paid for. If you can afford to do that, then great. That's a great way to start. I don't recommend going into debt for tools unless you can afford it. I recommend just buying one tool at a time and letting your artwork or whatever it is you're making or repairing pay for the tools as you go. I always try to reinvest, and it's in this trade. Over the years now, I've learned what tools I need and what tools I don't. Like there's tools that have sat in my last shop for 5 years and they're just dusty because I never ever used them and never needed them. So there's tools that you think, oh, I want to have one of those, and you might use it once a year if you're lucky, just to have a tool. So don't waste your money on tools you don't really need. Use your money smartly and buy the tools that you need to do the job that you're doing. And then if you find yourself come up to a job that you need the tool, then take some of the money from that job and invest in that tool and let the job pay for that tool. And that's how I've built up my tools, is I always reinvest from that profit money in my sculptures, and I reinvest in better tools. There's things that I still want to have that I can't afford to have. I mean, I don't even have a table. Most guys, even starting out, have a burn table, but I've never had one. I don't really use computers. I'm kind of an old school template. I wireframe and template everything. So I can use measurements off that, but I'm a visual artist, and for most of the work that I do, I mean, I still do basic, your basic fabrication that's all, square and laying out holes and, all that kind of stuff for stands and bases and, different things that I'm fabricating. But as far as the artwork goes, that's all just wireframe and paper templates. I use craft paper from a dollar store, that yellow paper. It's like, in most dollar stores, it's 50 cents or something like that. And if you buy a whole bunch, you can get it pretty cheap. And I buy that, and I use green automotive tape to tape it together, and black felt pens to draw my templates. And then I make everything fit with paper, and then I transfer that to the metal. And then if the metal's textured, then I add whatever coloring or texture treatment to the metal as I'm fabricating. But that's a great way to learn basically how to fabricate anything. I have 2 young apprentices working with me right now. One is just a C-level apprentice from high school that wants to learn, and he's a really great worker, a really great kid. 19 years, just turned 20 actually, my youngest employee. And then I just hired another young fellow. He's 26, Brandon, and he's a really good TIG welder. He actually makes a nice, beautiful golden weld, and really good TIG welder, but he lacks the fabrication knowledge. He's always worked at shops where he's just burned wire and never really learned how to shape metal or fit and that type of thing. So he's learning that now, and really loves it. He's like he's catching on quickly and loves it. So.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back here on the CWB Association podcast. And then in the second half of the show, what we're going to talk about is the art and kind of where you are now and what's going on in the world of Kevin Stone. All right, so just stay tuned, everybody, and don't go anywhere. And we are back here at the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and we have Kevin Stone with us, coming to us from BC, talking about his art. Now, before the show, before the break, we were talking about, your path leading to where you are. And right before the commercial break, we talked about, you now have employees, and this is the full-time gig. So when did art become the full-time gig for you? Like, how long ago, and what was the step? What was okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to do going forward.
As you know, I mentioned earlier, I had a hot rod shop. So when all this went south for me, when we were just talking about my dragon and bad partners and stuff, when all that happened and I repaired the dragon and we were dealing with that, I needed a source of income. I had lost my partnership, and he had been my source of income while we were building these things, and I had to make a choice. Do I keep pursuing the artwork? Do I start my own project and take the risk of investing what money I had left into a project, and then I couldn't afford to sit on it. That was the problem. So I afforded to build something, but sitting on it, waiting for it to sell, or hoping that it would sell, not really even knowing what to build or anything. I was kind of stuck to the point where I either I either invest in my own business and do something. I've got all the tooling here to do metal work, and I either invest in myself and start a business, or I have that as leave it as a hobby shop at home, and I go to industry. I go back to making a paycheck, right? And it was a big deal to me. I was in a new relationship and newly married with Michelle, and at the time all this happened. And so I kind of had a family meeting with her parents. My parents are gone now, but I like her parents, and they have some their common sense and good advice. And I said, what do you think is our best choice as a newly married couple to move forward? Do we go and buy a house and go back to work, or do we invest this money now and start my own business? And they said, well, you got to follow your dream, and if your dream is having your own business, then obviously just pursue that. So I didn't feel that I wanted to, I was knowledgeable enough that I felt that I could be a successful hot rod shop. I knew enough about cars and restoration and more details than a lot of the local shops that I felt I would do well. I felt I would kind of make a name for myself. Stand out and make a name for myself. Building high quality cars is what I really wanted to do, and I'm very passionate about cars. I love cars, and I'm still working and building on cars right now. I don't know if I held the camera up, you might see I don't know if you can see it in the background.
I can see the hood or the top of a car.
Yeah, Chevy, just like a show car that a friend of mine owns, and I just pulled the motor for him to get redone. And then in behind that, I'm building a 54 Buick twin turbo with a custom chassis and fabricated floors and tubs and everything. So nice. It's a really high-end build. So we struggled in the business. We had made mistakes, like you had said. You're still kind of green when not so much in the building of the cars, but in the business of it. Dealing with all the taxes and payroll and everything. And we started off with what we thought was a good bookkeeper that wasn't a good bookkeeper, and she didn't file properly, and cost us a lot of money. Put us behind really early on in our business, and then we fought through it and struggled and started to come out of the financial issues, and we're doing well. We're winning trophies and getting a name for the shop, and had a really great crew, and we won the BC Indoor Car Show here, the big BC Indoor in Abbotsford, and up against hundreds of cars, and so that was pretty cool. And we were looking at starting to do shows down in the States and compete down in California, and maybe even towards the Riddler Award at some point. And then we brought on partners. So when COVID struck, it kind of put a scare in it for everyone. And then everybody was, either not working or scared to work when it all first hit, and every businesses were shutting down and non-essential and all that stuff. And so the business started to take you'd think it would take a bit of a hit, more of a scare than anything, but people were staying home and spending money on their toys instead of traveling and stuff. So the business stayed quite busy. And I brought on a partner that was a customer. So actually I brought on two partners. One was an employee of mine who was friends with the customer. And the customer had deep pockets. And we thought, you know what, these two are a great way to lead the shop, take it in a better direction and make more money. Because I was just a hobbyist, I was just like I'm passionate about the cars I build, but I'm not in it to grow and have this huge empire of an automotive shop. I just enjoy building high-end cars. I'd be happy doing one at a time,
Yeah.
And so they wanted to take it into a different direction. They wanted to work on anything and everything, basically, and bolt on parts and, make money, lots of money, which is a great business plan for partners, right?
Yep.
And so while they were doing that, I actually had a couple of commissions. So the first one was I decided to build a 30-foot Falcon, all in mirror polished stainless steel. And it was going to be for the Big Boys Toys show in Las Vegas. They invited me to come there and put my artwork on display. And I didn't have anything to display. So I built a 30-foot stainless Falcon to bring down there and put on display and show my work off. And then COVID hit. And then I had all this money invested in this Falcon to take to Vegas and all this planning and everything to take to Vegas.
Then it didn't happen. Yeah.
It all went south. Mm-hmm. And then it was, delayed for over 2 years. So in that time, I had too big of an investment to be able to sit on this bird and wait for the show to open. So I sold the bird. And the client ended up being a phenomenal client down in Miami, where the bird went to. And it's now in a gallery in Miami with the world's largest collection of supercars.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's pretty cool. It's an amazing gallery. And so that led into the current work that I have. So one of the fellas that saw my bird show up in Miami is friends with the owner and phoned me directly and asked if I could build a giant T-Rex. So I said, yeah, I can build anything you like. And he's like, well, let's do it. I want to build a 50-foot chrome T-Rex. And so we're doing it's actually about 55 feet, all in mirror polished stainless right now. So we're currently, I would say, a little beyond the halfway point of building the T-Rex right now. Mm-hmm. And then I was contacted. I have a bird that I did in Dollywood back in 2010 or something like that. I did a 55-foot eagle for Dolly Parton's Dollywood in Tennessee. And the client I have now for my Game of Thrones dragon, he was in Dollywood and wanted a big eagle like that one. He's like, I want an eagle just like this, just as big, just detailed. He's like, this is perfect. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I can build other things, not just eagles. And he's in a marketing business out of California. And he's like, well, I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones. Maybe you could do a dragon from the Game of Thrones. Well, I was like, oh, dragon. Yeah, I love to do a dragon. And then I was like, what's Game of Thrones? I had no idea. I hadn't watched the show or the series or anything like that. So my wife and I went home and it was a long weekend and we binge watched the whole show. From the whole series from start to finish. We binge watched it in a long weekend. And then, one thing led to another and we started the dragon. So now I'm actually just a few weeks away from finishing the dragon. It's kind of been on limbo, on hold for about 6 months. So I've been having tons of fans and people messaging me and asking, why is the dragon just not getting finished? What's going on with the dragon? And the dragon's been in limbo because the owner sold his house in California and he was living on a yacht for the last 5 or 6 months with his family while they were thinking about building a house in Puerto Rico. So they went to Miami, lived on their yacht for 5 months, learned how to sail it. It's a catamaran, a big, huge catamaran. And and then they sailed down to South America and down to Puerto Rico. And then I've just recently been talking with him, and now he's not sure he wants to live down in South America and Puerto Rico, and might come back to the U.S. So the Dragon has been on hold, but now with this new series coming out on August 21st, House of Dragon is about to start. There's kind of a big push now to see how far we can get in finishing the Dragon before the series starts. So we have a couple of weeks of pushing hard on it, and basically the Dragon's almost done. I just have the shoulders left to do. So we're just doing the elbows and the shoulders, and then basically the Dragon's done at that point. And then I can test out the fire system.
So the partners that you had with the car shop, did they end up buying the shop and taking it on their own?
So
Yeah.
we let them know that the work that was coming for us was too big for us to turn down, and too big to encompass is as part of Stone Speed Shop as the shop. Our shop, I wanted, it just had no room for big giant sculptures. We didn't have the square footage for it, or the need for our work to be involved with that end of the business anymore. So it was perfect timing for Michelle and I to say, I think it's time to let the shop go. We'll focus on your artwork. That's where your passion is. That's where your drive is to always be a successful metal artist, is what my true passion has been for many years. And so the shop was, it just wasn't as important to us as the metal artwork was. And so we sold out to the partners, and they've successfully not only taken over the shop, but it's already grown quite tremendously since they've taken over. So good for them, and I'm happy for Michelle and I that we're doing what we love to do, and really, not only are we busy, but we're just now starting to get known for the work that we're doing, and a little more publicity coming our way about the type of work we're doing. And I'm noticing my Instagram and my TikTok really exploded. I mean, I've got 260,000 followers on TikTok, and I think 20 or 22 or something like that on Instagram. So really great to see those numbers growing and people liking our work and our videos and stuff. It's been really good.
That's awesome. The scope of what you build is so large. That's something that kind of sets you aside right off the top. But do you do smaller commissions? Are you interested in small art pieces, or do you just love the challenge of the giant pieces?
I mean, I as long as the big ones are coming in, they are so time consuming and overwhelming in labor that there is no time for me to do anything smaller. Side pieces would, like, I can't even work on my own car. Like, I'm just, these are big, tough jobs that you're working 5, and Michelle and I often work 6 days a week. We try to take a weekend off now that it's summertime because of the weather, and get a little bit of sun in our lives while we can, because it was a really long winter. And then with COVID, for 2 years, we haven't done anything in like 3 years. We haven't gone on a holiday. We haven't hardly even really taken time off other than a weekend, So we're looking forward to some time off, but right now we still have, we currently have 4 projects on the go. So I'm really slammed with work. I'm pushing to try to get the T-Rex done. Its delivery schedule date is February, but I'm trying to have it done maybe before November if I can. We've just been commissioned to do a 18-foot eagle for the American Bald Eagle Foundation, who used to actually be involved with Dollywood, and they used to have a petting type area, a sanctuary area as part of Dollywood. And now they've separated and purchased 60 acres of land in Tennessee, and they're going to be making a new habitat, eagle habitat. Yeah. A protection facility, but also a public facility, like a visitor center where people can go. And they've commissioned me to do Challenger. And Challenger is a unique eagle that has been trained in the States by a lady that has trained Challenger to fly in stadiums. So he flies at the big football games and baseball games and stuff. When they're doing the national anthem, he'll fly over the crowds and get the crowds cheering, and then he comes and lands on his handler. And he's the only eagle in the world that's ever been trained to do that. So it's pretty neat. And this eagle will be in dedication to Challenger. So I'll be replicating him to the best of my ability using stainless and steel, and we'll use a rusty body, and then I'll use the stainless for his head and tail and claws, and try to replicate the colors of an eagle, but in stainless and metal. And then we're also doing another project for a fellow, a car guy. Actually, his son had a Riddler level entry just a couple of years ago with his Nova that he built, a 66 twin turbo Nova, or might be quad turbo Nova, I'm not sure. And big dollar car, like big, 7-figure plus car. And so I'm building a sculpture for his dad in Mexico, for their house in Mexico. It's a 2-level, 2-story tall abstract sculpture with a ball, a painted ball on top, and it's painted in automotive paint in a chameleon color, so it changes color as you look at it, to represent a pearl. So it'll be like white and pink and blue and kind of have those colors to it. And that'll be the center feature of his home, which his home is called the Pearl of the Ocean, that he's building in Cabo. So that's just kind of the centerpiece for that home, and it's the first time I've done a big abstract piece, and the first opportunity I've had to have a center feature in a high-end home like that, which is really cool. I'm looking to it. Yeah.
So your future as an artist, do you have some, project or dream thing that you've had in your mind for a long time that you would just love if you had the money and time to just build? I'm sure you have a million doodles and drawings in your world, but is there one that's always been kind of lingering around?
Well, to be honest with you, it's actually for me to hand fabricate and really take my time and perfect is actually not a sculpture but a car. So I want to coach build a car for my personal self, which really is very close to like a 57 Ferrari. So I'm really those old curved body lines, 2-seat Cobra style, Cobra / Ferrari / 50s / my own design, but in that feel, all handcrafted aluminum, lightweight, fast.
What chassis would you think about using?
I would probably custom build one myself, but based on modern technology, independent rear suspension, roadster shop or Detroit speed front coilover suspension, really for handling corners and stuff like that. The frame itself would have to be custom, but setting up on a full independent modern suspension, coilover suspension is how I would do it. I've actually done that now with my Buick, so it'll be an interesting build when I get to unveil my Buick someday, if I get to work on it.
Well, maybe check out the magnet rides. Those are pretty cool. That new tech on the magnet rides now with the magnet suspensions, they're pretty slick. Right. Yep. Yeah, because I just got a new Mustang, a GT California Special, which came with magnet ride, and I didn't know much about it, but wow, it's pretty cool. Yeah. And now all the new sports cars have it.
A while back, I think Cadillac was the first to come out with it a while back, and she had a SS or a STS or something, a Cadillac that had that, and they're pretty wild too. Yeah. So
the crazy car build is still, you can't get away from it, can you?
I just want to go away from. I want to go a little like old school kind of look, and I like that type of thing. Sculpture wise, I've always said, I would like to be known. I mean, I'm hoping my pieces are here long after I'm gone, and maybe even after my, a couple generations at least.
Well, if it's stainless and it's taken care of, it should last forever, really.
Yeah, really. I mean, at least a couple hundred years. So I think I would like to be involved in building one of the largest pieces in the world, like something that is just, and there's some, that bar is getting higher all the time. If you really do some homework, there's some gigantic things that have been built in this world. So I don't know if that's ever going to become a reality unless I find a corporation or a company that says, maybe we should get this guy to do that for us or something, maybe. But on the level of gigantic sculptures, I mean, they're making stuff that's hundreds of feet tall now, and I would love to be a part of that, because I love thinking in big scale, and what a way to leave your name behind if you could create something so monumental that it's going to be here for hundreds of years. So So I think I'd love to be a part of something like that. And I'm running out of time. I'm in my mid 50s, and I don't want to be doing this till I'm I don't think I have it in me to do it till I'm 80 years old. I've got a
10, 15 year window. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a 10 or 15-year window. My elbows are starting to really act up bad with tendonitis now, and my back, and just getting older. And so I'm trying to teach these young guys. Hopefully they stick around. They don't just get good at it and go do it themselves. Because that always happens too, right?
Yeah.
Train so many guys in the automotive industry to do custom work, and then they're in their garage doing it themselves. So yeah.
So coming up to the end of the interview here, there's a couple things that I think a lot of the listeners would like to hear from your perspective, and that would be perhaps what's a good way to get into the art game with welding and with steel. You talked about just getting the tools and not getting in debt and stuff like that, but
has nothing to do with welding, other than if you want to apply welding and metalwork to making artwork. The number one thing to do is to be an artist. So the number one thing I can recommend to anybody is draw, and learn how to draw. And if you don't know how to draw, but you want to be a metal artist, learn how to draw. Take some drawing lessons, take an evening course. YouTube is awesome for learning how to draw basic drawings, and learn what happens with that. And I can't stress it enough, is it teaches you to visualize your lines and to make things flow. And I'm telling my students all the time that when you're looking at something, it's got to flow. If it's got a weird angle to it, or it's just doesn't look right to the eye, then it's not right. And you'll see it instantly. It's either right or it's not, and your eye will pick up on it. And when they don't see it, I tried to point out to them how to look for those things. But learning how to draw not only teaches you visualization, but it helps you think three-dimensional as well. And thinking three-dimensional is really important when you're trying to plan a sculpture. Doing sculpture is done in two different ways, and I feel that metalwork is one of the hardest, because when you get into the scale that I'm building in, you have to think about the frame and the structural rigidity and the safetiness of that piece that you're making before you can even create a piece of artwork around it. And then you have to figure out how that frame is not only strong and safe and engineered properly, but then how do you apply your artwork around it to come up with whatever it is you're building. So that's so back to two types of artwork. Like when you're sculpting, if you're carving a piece of wood or a piece of stone, you're working from the outside in. And so you're trying to visualize that chunk of rock into the picture that you're making. But when you're working with metal and stuff, you're starting with nothing and you're working from the inside out. So you have to build a foundation that you can create your artwork off of. So it's a whole different way of thinking. And even on smaller pieces, you're always, working from the inside out. You always have to have a base to start with, to start welding to or adding pieces to and stuff like that. So so those are things to think about. Start with cheap, inexpensive tools if you want to start doing some artwork. A great way to start is like finding old gears and parts. Lots of young artists are learning how to do scrap art, I call it, where you find stuff, and I've seen some amazing art done in scrap pieces just getting welded together. But it's a great way to learn and to help you visualize putting pieces together. And then if you really want to get serious about metalworking, then I highly recommend taking automotive courses. And by automotive courses, I mean coach building and metal shaping classes in the coach building industry, which teach you how to make fenders, repair panels for cars and stuff. Because what that teaches you is how to finesse metal, and how to heat metal, and how to bend and shape metal, and how to make patterns for making complicated metal shapes, and how to stretch and shrink, and how to weld, and how to cut. Those are the most important pieces of information that I can give any young artist And always look to your peers for knowledge. Somebody that's been doing it 10 years is going to be really knowledgeable, and someone that's been doing it 20 or 30 years is even going to be more knowledgeable. And for me, I think that I'm always learning. I'm trying to learn something every day. Every day is solving problems. And to me, every problem is a learning adventure. You got to figure out that problem. And that's what, that's what business is in general, really, is just solving problems, whatever that problem might be. And there's always a problem. There's always going to be a problem. You just got to learn to solve it and not let it get to you, and just keep that. And that's where patience comes in, because, when you're fitting, and especially complicated panels or complicated pieces, or something isn't turning out right, don't feel bad to go backwards a couple steps. If you've screwed something up, grind it out or cut it off.
Don't force
make
it.
One or fix it. Don't just, exactly. That's what I've had to learn. Sometimes you just like, I'll just make it work. And no, that's not the right answer. Don't make it work. Make it right. So I'm trying to teach my guys that, like, rather than messing it up, really make sure that your template fits proper, and then pre-fit your template. And then when you make the piece, pre-fit it several times to make sure that it's doing exactly what you want. And if it's not, make a new one. Make those changes and make a new one. I have no shame in making a part 3 or 4 times if I have to, because in the end result, it's the part that I wanted to have in there. So and it's a learning curve, and next time you get a little faster at it, a little better at it, or whatever. So yeah, but stick to drawing, learning how to draw. If you really want to be an artist as a metal worker, you still have to have that art side, and that's not something I can teach people.
Yeah.
You either have it or you don't. And if you don't, that's okay. Don't I'm not a long distance runner. I might want to be a long distance runner, but I'm not a long distance runner. So if you really suck at something, don't keep trying to pursue it because that's something that you want to do. Follow your path to what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
I see tons of people that are doing something that they just shouldn't be doing, whether it's car building or artwork or welding. I mean, there's guys that have been in the trade 20 or 30 years that I sure wish they weren't in the trade representing us, because they just do so. And some people don't get it. Some people don't care. Some people, it's a 9 to 5 and they just want to get the job over and get their paycheck. And other people are passionate about what they are doing and what they leave behind. And for me, that I feel that everything I do, whether it's a weld or a piece of metal or whatever that might be, that I want to do the best that I can. And if someone's coming behind me and going, oh, he's a great artist, but he can't weld worth shit, or he's a great welder, but look at this, or whatever that might be. And there's always those critics. I mean, no matter how crazy or good or determined or anything you are, there's always going to be a critic. And that's another thing. If you're a young artist starting out, don't let criticism get to you. Learn from criticism. Don't let it deter you from pursuing what you want to do. Go after it, live, eat, and breathe it. If you're going to be passionate about something, live, eat, and breathe it. It's the only way you're going to succeed at what you really want to do. If you are absolutely passionate about whatever that subject is, if it's art, metal art, any kind of art, or any kind of car building, or any kind of anything, whatever career you choose to do, go after it. Don't just think of it as a 9 to 5 job, and if you go after it, and especially if you're young and you succeed young, it'll make your older years a lot easier on you. Because for me, I had a late start, and I'm in my 50s now and just now starting to get known for my artwork. And now when I get busy, I'm like, damn, I don't want all this work, even though I want the work. I want the money, but I'm wearing out.
Yeah.
And and I get so busy, I don't have time to take off. And I think back all the time, and I think, damn, if I had only learned this about myself when I was
20
in my 20s or something, then everything would have been different. But you take life as it comes, and then you look at it this way, and I wouldn't have had all the experience that led into what I can do now. It took that many years to get all that experience and knowledge of shaping metal. And I get people asking me all the time, teach me. I'll work for you for free. Just teach me. But, that doesn't work either, because yeah, I'm still working and I don't have time to teach. So
Yeah. Teaching is different than working.
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic interview. The second question I had for you was just give everyone your details. What's your Instagram? What's your TikTok? What's your website? Let everyone know.
Is we're trying to push our YouTube, so we're hoping lots of people will come. I actually have a friend of mine, Justin Booth, who's a professional filmographer, and he's been documenting my work and documenting our builds and loading and doing all the editing for me and everything for YouTube. And we're trying to build up our YouTube now. I think it's still pretty low, like 700 or 800 on our YouTube. So we're hoping to get everybody that's following me on social media to come towards our YouTube, where you can really get to know us and get to know our employees and get to know what we're building and where we're at. We're trying to upload videos weekly now. We're starting to do a lot more shorts so people can see little clips rather than long-winded videos. Nobody wants to hear me talking. They just want to see us building. So we're trying to do some how-tos. If I have tips and tricks and welding tips and I mean, there's a lot more technical people out there that can give better advice than I can. But I've been around the block and I have lots of, I call them little Chinese secrets, and they're little tips of the trade that just make shortcuts, make life a little easier and maybe a little safer when you're doing certain jobs and stuff like that. So we try to produce some of that content for people, especially young people starting out, how different tools shape metal and good tools and bad tools, and what works and what doesn't and that type of thing. So
all right, so hit up the YouTube. And how do they find you on YouTube?
Yeah, Kevin Stone on YouTube, and then Metal Sculptor Kevin Stone or Kevin Stone Metal Sculptor will come up on most social media applications. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Metal Sculptor Kevin Stone will come up. Or, if you want to see a bunch of variety of my work and stories that have been done on me, there's quite a bit of information on Google. So just Google Metalwork Kevin Stone or Metal Sculptor Kevin Stone on Google, and you'll find lots of stuff there. My website's kevinstone.ca. You can see my website. It's a little outdated because we've been focused on social media so much. So really the most up-to-date stuff is definitely our YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. And and lots happening. We're going to be unveiling the Dragon here at the end of summer. So the 55-foot all steel fire breathing Game of Thrones dragon is going to be getting wrapped up here in a few weeks. And we're starting the major construction of the T-Rex outside. So people will be able to follow along as the T-Rex starts to get put together and stuff. And that's a massive dinosaur. I mean, the only one bigger is Drumheller, Alberta. So,
Well, that's amazing, Kevin, and you've been a fantastic guest. It's been a great conversation, and I think we'll have to come back because I feel like we didn't get everything out there. There's still probably more we could talk about, but
for sure.
But podcasts, if I go past an hour, people start to tune out.
No, it's been great. Thanks for having me, and I'll get back onto that dragon, and look forward to hearing more from you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And to all the listeners, make sure you follow Kevin Stone on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube. We'll be sharing all the links when this podcast hits the market. And, please I want to thank all the listeners for staying in touch and making sure that the podcast is as successful as it is. We're doing a great job, and we're trying to find all the best guests like Kevin for you. So thanks, and stay tuned for the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed the show.